This podcast is brought to you in part by VIP Marketing and Advertising.
So we're back for part 2 of your daily development with Mr. Jim Doyle. Man, I hope you did not miss the first episode with Mr. Jim Doyle. If you did, you can still go into the iTunes Store, Google Play, or SoundCloud, or wherever you listen to your content and listen to episode 1. But now let's go into episode 2, our interview with Mr. Jim Doyle.
Welcome to your daily development with your host, Eric Elliott.
You're running away from the future, man. You gotta get caught up in the past. Welcome back to another episode of Your Daily Development, and I am pumped about today's show. I have a friend and a mentor joining us today. His name is Mr. Jim Doyle of Jim Doyle and Associates. I actually go way back with Jim from my broadcast years, but just a little bit about Jim and Jim Doyle and Associates. They are a national sales training and marketing consulting firm. Jim has partnered with broadcast stations and cable companies across the country, and I think you'll get a lot out of today's episode. So let's welcome Jim Doyle. You talk to people across the country, Jim. You talk to TV stations, you talk to business owners, advertisers across the country. How would you advise them on how to measure their results? Because I know there's a lot of business owners that have never set up KPIs or key performance indicators before they launch a campaign. They just say, "Oh, I spent $20,000 and this didn't work," or "I spent $10,000, this didn't work." How would you advise them to measure success or even know what success looks like?
Well, probably like you, I've been in dozens, if not hundreds, of those kinds of conversations, and I have three answers. One of them is very ambiguous and probably maybe even too vague, but obviously, I want to see cash register impact. I want to see sales growth. And if that doesn't mean that every piece of my advertising program is right, but if I'm seeing sales growth, obviously some growth, that's a good indicator. But let's take that to a deeper level. Ideally, it's difficult sometimes to take some traditional media and say, how did that lead to growth? Mm-hmm. I am a massive believer in understanding market share. If I look at sales tax receipts on the State Department of Taxation website for home furnishing, and they were in the last quarter up 3%, meaning that 3% more sales tax was collected from furniture retailers, and my furniture store is +5, that says I've grown market share.
Absolutely.
If there's 100 Fords sold in Charleston, and I've moved over a period of time from 23 Fords in a month sold to 30 in a month sold, that means I'm growing market share. And ultimately, market share growth is the strongest indication of the success of a business program. Way more of a powerful indication than clicks or how many people went through. Ultimately, how many people go through your site is only relevant to the point that leads to sales.
Mm-hmm.
So I am I'm a relentless believer in looking at market share, because if let's say I've had 100 click-throughs and they converted at some number, but my sales compared to my competitor in my brand or in my category are down or not growing as fast, that's not a successful advertising campaign. And I think that's one of the fallacies, one of the sort of things that we ought to be cautious of as we have this conversation about the specifics of what analytics. Now, I love the analytics. We have a client out in a market in the West, and they're looking at the correlation between when a TV ad runs and showing a client using their own Google Analytics that they actually had the increase in the web hits that occurred in the next 24 hours after that TV ad ran. Mm-hmm. And then comparing that to a week later when the schedule dropped down by 20%, but the reach out to the hits to the website dropped by 40%. That kind of use of analytics, I think, will be increasingly one of the currencies of the realm. But I would never want a business to not look at market share. I think that's a huge mistake, because you can be led to think you're doing good when you're not.
I agree. I think one of the issues that I've seen is that
advertisers make each medium work against one another instead of working along with one another for a single campaign, you know?
Well, yeah, we had Tom Ray has developed this word that we are strong believers in called tradigital. And tradigital is the marriage of digital and traditional media. There is this sense that, you know, it's digital versus traditional. And boy, if you followed us around the country and saw all of the success stories we're involved in, it's digital plus traditional, traditional plus digital. You know, a TV cam with a geofencing element, a TV campaign with a retargeting element. Look, when an ad works today, people pick up a device, and so every business today has got to have a pick up the device strategy. So you can't be in business without a pick up the device strategy that targets and retargets that kind of stuff. But that doesn't take away from the fact that, you know, one of the biggest drivers, you know, we'll have car dealer after car dealer after car dealer who say the minute they go on TV or radio or media, they can see the increase in their web traffic instantly. That's the marriage. It's not either or, it's both and.
You know, what's interesting was there was an NADA conference that was in January and in New Orleans. And one of the things that came up was dealership web traffic. 80%, nearly 80% of the actions or even the web traffic to the dealer's websites come from mobile phones. Just interesting.
Yeah, no question.
Just interesting. Very interesting.
In fact, it's interesting. The fastest growing area of traffic for car dealerships, to your point, is dealership in-person ups on a lot are down. Web ups are down, but phone ups are up substantially, and it's all because of click to call.
Yeah.
Right off of a mobile platform, clicking to call. So yeah. Change. It's really interesting. If you think about one of the ramifications about that, I talked about it a little bit, is so if my point of access to a car dealership is now a phone or a web interaction, someone who's 30 miles outside of Charleston does not have to have the $1 million lot that was so critically important, that $1 million location that, you know, somebody would have in North Charleston or Charleston. I can compete with that Charleston dealer from 30 miles away by an effective media campaign without making the real estate investment.
No, I have seen it. We've done it ourselves. I agree.
Isn't that cool? Yeah, it's really fun. So
Tom Ray said, is it Tom Ray?
Yes, Tom. Yeah.
Tom, I watched some of the videos that you guys had. It was just awesome. And one thing he said was, branding is out and results are in.
If I spend a lot of money to create a brand, but my sales go up, but my sales don't go up, that is not a strategy that's going to work for a long-term client. You know, for a business, the kind of businesses that you and I work with, which are, you know, for the most part, locally owned or regional chains, but smaller businesses. I mean, look, Starbucks has a brand. You know, the baristas wear the same clothes. The look of the location is the same. I can go to a Starbucks in Sedona, Arizona, where I live now, or one in Charleston, and they're going to look roughly the same. That creates a brand for Starbucks. But if I'm Joe's Coffee Shop in downtown Charleston, I can't spend the kind of money that Starbucks can spend. I can't out Starbucks to create a brand. What I can do is drive people to come in between 6 and 9 o'clock this morning. And I really want to be focused on that. Now, that doesn't mean that I can't, you know, in many ways build a brand. As you know, one of the things we believe in is that if I'm not the dominant Ford dealer or Chevy dealer, one of the ways I can attack is to be the F-150 guy.
You don't need a marketing agency. You do deserve very important placement. VIP Marketing and Advertising is a cutting-edge strategic digital, creative, media, and marketing partner that provides services for businesses of all sizes. To stay up to date on the latest marketing news, subscribe for email updates at veryimportantplacement.com.
One of the ways I can attack is to be the F-150 guy.
Yep.
Well, that's a brand if I do it over a period of time. That Joe Jones Ford sells F-150s for less can be a brand. But this idea of Joe Jones Ford spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to tell me what a wonderful place they are to do business, and that their kids are, their people coach Little League and that they're good people when they go to church too, I'm not sure that's going to have an impact on sales that will ultimately have them feel good about that money.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that. A lot of folks, let's just say Charleston is what, on an average, 69, 70 people moving to Charleston a day. So some of the heritage doesn't really matter. Or does it?
I don't think it does as much. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think it does as much. I don't think that's just Charleston. I think people. I had a friend of mine, a really smart business guy, one of my powerful teachers, furniture guy in Rochester, New York, and I used to give him crap all the time about the fact that he had a sale every day. And it's like every they had the January sale followed by the early January sale, followed by the Martin Luther King's birthday sale, followed by the late. It just went on and on and on. And I said, don't they get it? And one day he was saying, it's interesting. People say to researchers, there's too many sales. They don't want a sale. And they hold on to that idea fervently and passionately until the minute at which they want to buy something.
You're right.
And then at that point, what do they want? Do they want a sale? And so I think, to your point, it's not just that people are moving in a market like Charleston. That's substantial and significant. But I think in every place, people want to know why this is a good time to buy and that they're going to get a good opportunity. And I think we can get a little bit too carried away on branding. Now, look, if your branding is increasing your market share, then hallelujah, keep going.
No, I agree with you 100%. 100%. Jim, let me kind of, I guess, go into a little bit of a lightning round here and just kind of ask you. I'll present the media.
The lightning round assumes that I have lightning answers.
Well, that's okay. You can take your time to answer these, all right? So, like, if I give you a medium, you tell me, you sum up that medium for me. Like, if I say radio, you tell me what you think about that medium, where it is now, and where it's going.
Okay.
Radio.
I used to own radio stations. I love the radio business. I think music radio is unbelievably challenged to get results because people are self-programming their own radio now. And I might get sports news talk a little bit better results. Religious, Hispanic, African-American stations may get a little bit more results. General music stations, very tough to get the frequency that drives results.
Internet radio, such as Pandora, iHeartRadio.
Some concerns about the measurement.
Billboard advertising.
Terrific for short messages. Most billboards get screwed up by trying to do too much. Burger King Next Exit, probably one of the most effective ads you'll ever have.
Social media.
I think that I'm going to have a social media piece of my program, but I'm going to try to be as militant as I can about looking at results.
The internet.
Well, that's like asking about the universe. It's like, what is the internet? Believe everything. That's what I want to say. Believe everything you read on the internet.
I believe everything on the internet. I love it.
Yeah. I think there are so many cool things that can go on now with digital. I just heard about a hospital in Pennsylvania who's struggling to recruit nurses. They found out that their best sources for nurses are disgruntled third shift nurses at other hospitals. Wow. So they built a geofence around the other hospitals and only activated it at 11 o'clock at night till 3 o'clock in the morning. And with basically, are you tired of your current nursing job? Click here.
That's smart.
Is so cool to me. The idea that I can, we had a BMW dealer in San Diego, Eric, who said to us, today I go hunting with a rifle and a shotgun. So a shotgun might be mass media's ability to reach a lot of people, including even some social media's ability to reach a lot of people. The rifle is, how do I get the right person? How do I get them and perhaps re-get them once they visited my site? Very good.
Very good. Television.
Has to be used differently than it was before, but still the most powerful way to get on a map, especially for anybody over the age of 45.
Jim, It's always a pleasure, man, just to talk to you and get your insights, man. For the listeners out there that want to learn more about Jim Doyle and Associates, where would you tell them to go and how would they find you?
If they've got questions about anything we shared today, it's always a privilege to reach out. And my personal email is jim@jimdoyle.com. And jimdoyle.com is where you find out everything about us.
Jim, I thank you so much. And to our listeners out there, thank you for your time. We want to just tell you thank you. And please rate us. You know, a 1-star is cool, but a 5-star is even better. Jim, thank you for your time.
All right. Hey, thank you so very much. And Eric, that was a blast. Enjoyed it. Good to get reconnected with you.
All right, Jim. Thank you. You too, man.
Man, after listening to episode 1 and 2, you probably feel like you can go out and conquer the marketing world. Thank you to Mr. Jim Doyle again for lending us his time, which is your most valuable asset. And thank you to the listener for giving us your ear. We want to encourage you to come in and listen every Wednesday while we have something ready for you. And this has been your daily development. If you got any questions, go to veryimportantplacement.com and submit questions to us. We will respond to you. We'll keep you anonymous, but thank you for listening. This is your daily development.
Copyright 2017 VIP Marketing and Advertising. Produced by Craft Creative.
When all eyes are on you, make it count. From audio to video to graphic design and more, Craft Creative can do it all. We don't make commercials, we craft creative. See what we can do for you at wecraftcreative.com.